Authorities are investigating claims that South African money could be used to fund terrorism in Kenya and Mozambique. A report published by the Financial Intelligence Center comes at a time when South Africa is on high alert for terrorism. Last month, the United States Embassy warned of a possible attack targeting a large gathering in Sandton. Let's discuss this report. We're now joined by Dr. Christiano, Chairperson for international law at the University of Johannesburg. Doc, thank you very much for availing yourself this morning. Have you caught sight of the report and what has stood out for you?
Good morning. Thank you so much, madam. I cannot hear you very well. I used my earphone, so I couldn't get your question. Excuse me.
No worries. Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Not very clear, but I can hear you, yes.
Okay. Have you caught sight of the report and what stands out in particular for you?
Yeah, about the finance of terrorism with South African money, correct?
That's correct.
Sorry?
Okay, Dr. Dorsey, we're going to reestablish...
Yes.
Okay, you can hear me.
Now I can hear you a bit better.
All right. That's correct, sir. You're indeed correct.
Oh, okay. Yes, sure. Sorry for this technical problem. But,
no problem.
Thank you so much for the invitation even today. Well, yes, I mean, there is this risk, in fact, that South African money can be used for terrorism. Actually, I mean, it's although there is this financial intelligence center here in South Africa that is really doing a very good job until now, but the risk is there actually because I mean it's very I mean there are multiple possibilities that this can happen. Above all, with the long-standing war in Syria and also the crises that are more recent in Mozambique and in Cabo Delgado province and in Kenya, in fact. Well, actually, we have in fact to point out that in South Africa, in fact, there is a very important law. That there is the South African Act of number 33 of 2004. There is a protection of the constitutional democracy against terrorism that is still the first legal instrument to tackle these problems. But it's also true that it's very difficult to control the flow of money. For example, there are South Africans who have been foreign fighters in Syria, for example, and of course, once they came back to South Africa, they continue, for example, through organizations, through informal channels, like, for example, the Awala system, that is an informal transfer of money, to continue to fund terrorist organizations, in fact. And also there are problems linked, for example, to the border integrity. There is this big issue in Cabo Delgado, as I mentioned before, and SADC, Mozambique, like South Africa is a member of SADC, they conceived a new counter-terrorism strategy to tackle also this problem in the area. But of course, the porous border, for example, and the fact that many organizations who fund terrorism prefer to use cash, or prefer also to use the very fashionable today, the cryptocurrencies, that they escape more easily from the control of the institution who should really control, the inflow and outflow of money from a country. This, in any case, facilitates a lot the fact that South African money can unwittingly, of course, fund terrorism, because, of course, it's not the government who would like to fund terrorist organizations. But, you know, in a country like this one with so many million of people and of course also with organizations supporting, with organizations that they can cover up the real intention, because as I said, there can be also organizations like there are charities and non-profit organizations that can hide real purposes. So, you know, the risks are many. I mean, the risks are many, and it's not. It cannot be. We cannot guarantee 100% that the South African money didn't fund terrorism until now, unfortunately.
Dr. Dorsey, you speak of the many risks, and one of the risks you spoke about is the so-called porous borders, right, in SADC in particular. What do we need to understand about that, right, especially given that in countries where borders are so-called tightened, if you will, or better regulated, we're still seeing a problem with terrorist groups and financing?
Yes, but you know, on the porous border, in fact, it is a problem, but it's not really the main problem, because as I said, money today they can circulate very easily. You know, if a South African, if you have controls at the border, but South African who has bad intention can always carry a lot of cash hiding somewhere in the car or in the bus. Or as I said today, there are this transfer of money that, as I said, they are mixed. On one side, you have this informal transfer of money that guarantee anonymity for the sender, and that it can still be done, and there are not so much control, like the Awala, as I mentioned. But on the other side, we don't have to underestimate the fact that today many of this financing has been done through cryptocurrencies, through virtual currencies, in the sense that, you know, it's not money circulating, but it's just circulating online. And as long as you try to control, you know, it's very difficult to control all the transactions that they are going outside South Africa. So it's it's problematic, and of course this does not concern only South Africa, of course, but
absolutely.
Terrorists are very, you know, people often they think that terrorists are just people who just have this thirsty of combating on the field, and they can just use weapons. But behind these people, there are very, very smart minds who organize, you know, the smuggling also of money.
Dr. Ossi, you mentioned that it's difficult to control transactions going out of South Africa. So in light of this Financial Intelligence Center report, why then is this kind of work important? To know and do what if it is so difficult to curb or nip in the bud?
Well, first of all, because, all this kind of work, they are important, because first of all, we don't have to think that nothing can be done. We don't have to give for granted that it's like this and it cannot change. So of course, you know, at the Center for Financial Intelligence, there are smart minds who are working to try to tackle the problems. So it's very important that also people are aware, because in any case, you know, they can also, for example, help in some way, in the sense that if citizens, they perceive, for example, that this or that organization that works in their area actually is covering up, financial outflow of money that can fund terrorism, they can, for example, go to the police and say, look, we have, because of course the Center for Intelligence, it cannot control the entire, you know, there can always be something that escapes to the control. This is on what criminals, because we have to call them with their name, it's on criminals they rely on the fact that as thorough the control can be, they cannot in fact control every single transaction. And also, for example, also because, as I said, often this money doesn't outflow to normal channels, doesn't outflow to banks. So it's very difficult to control them. So everyone can help. And in any case, the population and the country, they need to be aware that this is becoming a big problem. Also because, in a country that is undergoing a financial crisis, that money that funds terrorism can be employed to fund more interesting initiatives, to corroborate the South African economy, actually. So that money could be useful to help South African economy. Because we are talking about millions of rand, we're not talking about small amounts of money, actually.
Dr. Christiano Dorsey, Research Chair for International Law at the University of Johannesburg. Thank you.